On July 20th, 2009, 11:43 p.m., 19th Street, Clare Avenue, Western Sydney. There was a 000 call. Lady, can you hear me? Yes, I can. Your name's Jessica? My fingers are broken. Okay. Mom has had enough of me because I admit I've been a challenge. And this ongoing thing has been going for months and months. Anyway, she had enough of me. She grabbed me by the hair and dragged me from my room all the way to the kitchen. And she got a knife and she tried to stab me with it. And I grabbed the knife off her because I thought she was going to stab me. So I stabbed her back, and I was so heated up with anger. I just kept stabbing and stabbing and stabbing her. And I took off her head. I ran to my neighbor, not this neighbor. My other neighbor before this one who's on the other side. He was at work. I told him to call the ambulance and the police immediately. He's going to do so, but no one's at home because everyone in the family is at work now. So he wasn't as much help. He said, all I can do is I'll call the police and the ambulance for my address. And I thought it was going to take a bit of time. So I ran to my other neighbor on the other side. And I had my mom's head in my hand. I know this sounds insane, but I was taking it for evidence to show the neighbor in the struggle, in the frustration. I didn't know what I was doing. I cut her head off. I chopped her head off with a knife. There were all sorts of knives. There were about 7 knives. 7 knives I was stabbing her with. A few of the knives broke. When that knife broke, I got another one and did the same. Where's the knives now? They're all in the kitchen. Everywhere, there's blood everywhere. There's blood everywhere. And you're outside the house. Yeah. The ambulance and the police have locked up. Do you want to stay on the phone? No, that's okay. What's your phone number, Jessica? Look, you're better off. This is my mom's phone number, but my mom's not there anymore. Okay, go on. When the police arrived, Senior Constable Anthony Diagino used his body camera to record the incident. A young woman covered in blood stood in the dark, illuminated by the officer's flashlight. I murdered my mother, she said. That's my mom's head over there. Before we go any further, I'd love to know which country are you watching from? Drop it in the comments below. And if you're enjoying this true crime deep dive, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. Now let's get into the case. 25 years old, the Australian couple, Vince and Rita, had a second daughter named Jessica Camilleri. Jessica and her family have experienced hardship from a young age. Jessica's IQ was between 55 and 60, and she had special needs from birth. If this story shocked you, give it a like and let me know your theory in the comments below. She took longer to meet several developmental milestones, including talking and walking, and her teachers soon became aware of these difficulties. Jessica's illnesses included autism, bipolar disorder, and ADHD. Additionally, she suffered from occasional explosive disorder, which would cause violent and aggressive outbursts. This is a mental illness that often begins at age 6 and gets worse during puberty and the early years of adulthood. It is not just ordinary anger. According to a later expert, the fact that she was the victim of bullying at school frequently made things worse. She would fight teachers and classmates during her outbursts at school, which typically resulted in her suspension. She bit a male student once, but it was usually focused on female girls. Teachers attempted to remove her from him, but she would not let go of him. Jessica's outbursts were accompanied by deficiencies in judgment, empathy, and understanding of the thoughts, feelings, and emotions of others. Jessica's parents divorced when she was still a teenager in 2015. Her father was unsure of how to handle her behavior and believed Rita, his wife, was unable to properly discipline her. As part of her commitment to her family, Rita took care of her mother in addition to Jessica. The stress from all of this kept increasing. In her spare time, Jessica, a part-time clerk at a Kmart in Mount Druitt, would watch her favorite horror movies, particularly the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. In addition to showcasing her strong bond with her mother, her social media posts revealed her horror movie passion. Making up phone numbers was one of her hobbies. She mostly used the digits 2, 3, and 5, since those were her favorite. In the hopes that males would pick up, She would phone them numerous times during the day. When they did, she threatened to slice off their heads if they put the phone down on her. By 2018, Jessica had started making a lot of calls to a business in Victoria and had fallen head over heels for the company's manager, Matthew. One of the male employees she had called had been told, "You're going to die of cancer, and if not, I will stab you until you die." Her threats might include, "I will stab you and cut your head off with a knife." No matter who she spoke to, it would always end that way. According to Matthew, Rita also called them after the calls had been going on for around 2 months to express that she was at her wits' end with her daughter's behavior and had run out of options. In an attempt to stop the calls, she said that she would take away her daughter's phones. The calls did cease, but they resumed after only 2 weeks. Using Facebook, she located Matthew's friends and family and started harassing them. She even went so far as to threaten his wife and his sister, stating, "I'll cut your head off with a chainsaw and flush it down the toilet." There would be up to 100 annoying calls per day. Rita was approached once more by Matthew, who informed her that something needed to be done since things were becoming out of control. Rita claimed that Jessica had a major crush on Matthew after viewing his picture. Her behavior would not only show up in this manner. After Jessica became upset with a female patient and had to be restrained, she was barred from the doctor's office. She also displayed her displeasure by getting upset with the women surrounding her in malls and on the street. After being brought to the hospital, she lost her temper with a female nurse. After that, she spent 9 days in a psychiatric hospital to manage a serious mood disorder episode. Antipsychotics, mood stabilizers, and antidepressants were among the many drugs Jessica had been taking, but they didn't seem to be doing much to help her. By the end of 2018, Jessica had stopped taking her medicine and was turning to natural cures instead. Despite all that had happened to her daughter, Rita never gave up on her and would always stand up for her. Rita's letters to a friend brought attention to the fact that people outside the family were also aware of what was happening. "They say I had to call an ambulance at 2 o'clock in the morning the other day because Jess had a meltdown and was becoming agitated, and I was at a loss for what to do. The police arrived with the ambulance, but since she hadn't done anything, they didn't send her to the hospital. She was terrified and anxious at the moment, since she didn't want to return to the hospital's mental health unit." If this story shocked you, give it a like and let me know your theory in the comments below. The policeman who arrived at my house with the ambulance warned me that if we end up back here and have to return to the house for this reason, she won't be as fortunate this time. So she needs to wake up to herself. Stop this and let go of this guy. I told her this had to do with a man Jessica was having issues with. Another message Rita wrote to the same friend would mention it. "I just wanted to let you know that Jess has updated her Facebook account. Because of the man she was having issues with, she no longer uses her previous Facebook account. She is now afraid and anxious because I warned her that if I were you, I would never again walk around with this deadhead, because if I did, she would be digging her own grave. She is playing with fire. Our entire family told her, he is definitely not worth it, so just let the deadhead go." Jessica would receive messages from the same buddy Rita had been messaging, warning her to exercise caution. "My mom said that I don't know what the F you're worrying about," Jessica retorted. "He is an ugly deadhead who isn't even attractive. You're spending time and energy worrying about getting even with that ugly pig." And she's right. So are you. I don't want to spend the rest of my life confined to a house because of this ugly mother effort. Jessica's extremely challenging behavior kept getting worse. According to her older sister Christy, Rita sought the advice of a psychic in early July 2019 when she was desperate and felt that all of her choices were failing, and the medium quoted her around $5,000 to get the demon out of Jessica. Rita never got anything in return for the $25,000 she paid. During the same month, a family friend expressed to Rita their serious worries about Jessica's actions, stating that they thought she might kill someone at some point. To which Rita said, "Not my Jessica. She wouldn't." Rita accompanied Jessica to the police station on July 19th to discuss the bothersome phone calls that had been occurring for a long time. Was it murder or just a terrible accident? Let us know your thoughts and tap like if you want more chilling cases. This is not the first time she has interacted with the police. As we have established, Jessica had been found guilty of 2 counts of assault, causing actual bodily harm, and 2 counts of ordinary assault during the preceding 6 years. Instead of being sent to prison, she was placed under her mother's care. A man passed by Jessica and her mother as they were in a parking lot on July 20th, 2019. Then, believing that Rita had degraded her in front of him, Jessica grew furious with her mother. The tension increased when they visited her sister's home. Rita was frantically attempting to soothe Jessica. After that, Jessica requested that a doctor come out, but she departed as soon as the doctor did, claiming that she was afraid for her life. The doctor managed to jump into Jessica's car and drive away when she chased him down the driveway. Rita was caring for her 4-year-old grandson, Child A, at the time, and Jessica thought her mother was spending too much time with him rather than with her. Jessica tried to acquire additional food by calling Red Rooster, a fast food chain, at 9:18, 9:20, and 9:21 p.m. After reaching her breaking point, Rita said, "I'm ringing 000 to get an ambulance here and put you back into care, back into the mental health care system." The situation continued to deteriorate. After Jessica followed her mother into the bedroom, she was knocked to the floor and pulled by her hair to the kitchen. It would be here that she would attack. Jessica Camilleri had used 7 knives to stab her mother over 100 times in the kitchen. The power of the blows caused some of the knives to shatter. After Rita survived the initial 90 stab wounds, her daughter severed her head, removing her eyes, nose, and tongue. Additionally, Jessica engaged in what was called cannibalism. After that, she carried her mother's head outside to show the neighbors. When the police finally came, they were confronted with a scene they could not have imagined. "Mom's head is on the concrete over there," Jessica remarked, smeared with blood as she stood outside her home. "Is it possible to stitch the head back on? Is it possible to revive a person without a head? She's gone, and there's nothing you can do about it. Because they can't reattach her head, even though I know doctors can perform miracles." In response, the policeman said, "That's a bit of a stretch. I thought doctors could do miracle surgeries and put the head back on." Number: will I suffer any consequences? Am I going to be executed? In Australia, we don't use the death penalty, an officer stated. She answered, "Okay, so I've got nothing to worry about." The officers wanted to know exactly what had transpired in the disarray and commotion of such a scenario. Rita had been watching her grandson, who was 4 years old, as was previously indicated. His grandma was being attacked by Jessica, and he had tried to stop it by hitting her with the lid of a toy box. Jessica cut his face and lacerated his hands and head when she shoved him away. After receiving medical attention in the hospital, he was sent home to be looked after by his family. Australia was rocked by the news of this heinous murder. Superintendent Brett McFadden, a police detective, told reporters, "The family is upset about what happened. This is among the most important and horrifying incidents that police have ever encountered. The fact that this was a serious and horrifying incident, and that the victim sustained severe injuries, cannot be denied. It is an extremely tough, demanding, and confronting investigation. A vicious, brutal killing almost beyond imagination. Stabbed repeatedly, then beheaded. She was her daughter's carer, protector, and only friend. But at 57, Rita Camilleri was killed in the most horrifying manner imaginable. Jessica Camilleri decapitated her mother after stabbing her in the head and neck more than 100 times in their home at St. Clair in Western Sydney. Rita fought desperately for her life. The truth is out there, and so are more stories. Like, subscribe, and follow the trail with us. She suffered 90 defensive wounds. While CSI officers reviewed the site and police collected interviews, the officers and emergency services who had responded to the call were offered counseling to help them deal with the tragedy of what they had witnessed that night. Rita started receiving tributes. Rita was also caring for her bedridden, frail mother, which added to the grief. According to one of her acquaintances, this is simply horrifying. She was lively, fun, and irreverent. She had a strong sense of community and liked music. Because she was beautiful, she was able to connect with everyone. They seemed to have parties all the time. "Just parties over there," said a neighbor. "I've never heard yelling or shouting before." Jessica had previously been known to the police and other authorities due to a few problems, but it seemed that this time it had gone considerably beyond. Jessica's mother's dried blood was still on her body and clothing at the St. Mary's police station, and her hands were covered in evidence bags. "She's had enough of me," she informed the police. She had reached her breaking point. "I want everyone to know that even though I have harmed many people in the past, until now, I have never touched my mother. I know that because I'm a piece of work. She's had enough of me." My mother became impatient, not to murder her, but to give her a taste of her own medicine. I had to stab her repeatedly. That's what occurred, I believe. And then her head simply fell off. I had not considered packing Mom's head in a suitcase when it fell off. I was holding my mother's head in one hand while holding both my phone and hers in the other. I let it slide from my grasp. The head simply stayed on the sidewalk of my neighbor. After this, I'm not sure how my parents and sister will treat me. In response, the officer informed her that they were really distressed. Jessica was charged with murder and made an online video link appearance at Parramatta Bail Court the day after the crime. She informed the judge, "I really need medical attention," without requesting bail. I informed every officer and the station police that I was unable to move my fingers normally due to the incident. I need to be cleaned up before I can go to jail. Due to my fingers, I was unable to properly wash myself in the shower and remove all of the blood. Prior to her subsequent court appearance, the magistrate mandated that she undergo an evaluation in the hospital. She pleaded not guilty to murder, claiming that her mental health issues had significantly impaired her ability to control herself. According to her attorney, it needs to be amended to a manslaughter charge. Professor David Greenberg, a psychiatrist, would talk to her while she was incarcerated, awaiting trial. He later stated she was placed in supportive environments after leaving school, where she had explosive outbursts and was asked to leave. She ended up on a disability support pension since she couldn't handle all of these situations. She will not lose control every time. Rather, she loses control when she feels provoked or under stress. She also claimed, according to the psychiatrist's notes, "I know people will think I'm sick. I believe that I would relieve her of her suffering. I was thinking ill thoughts, which made me quite angry and frustrated." Later on, she would tell him that she got the inspiration to do it from a scary movie, and she would ask him to record that for the judge. "I wasn't thinking," she said to Professor Greenberg. "I was furious, upset, and in a panic. I was being slapped by Mom. She took hold of my hair. I took hold of my mother and pulled her by the hair all the way to the kitchen. I became enraged. I recall yanking the knife. At first, I intended to frighten her. Mom removed the knife from me and tossed it aside. I lost it because I was so upset. She was being stabbed by me. I was furious. The truth is out there, and so are more stories. Like, subscribe, and follow the trail with us. I believe my ideas were sick. I got it from the horror films Saw, Jeepers Creepers, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. My mother was stabbed. I recall I was getting her everywhere, and I wasn't going to stop. I was boosting my adrenaline. Regarding Jessica's personality, Professor Greenberg stated that she has a history of requesting attention, presents as egocentric or self-centered, and struggles when her attention is diverted. She has an irrational expectation of favorable treatment and a sense of entitlement. She can become enraged when her desires are not satisfied. She may be exploitative and feels that her disability makes her special. She believes that her impairment makes her unique and ignores the needs and feelings of others. She is extremely sensitive to criticism and may become angry or show contempt in response. She was now under arrest. Yet her behavior remained characterized by violent outbursts. She was involved in multiple prison disturbances prior to being put on trial. She hurled a cup of tea at her fellow prisoners on September 10, 2019, leading to charges of assault. After hitting another prisoner, she was placed in her cell for 5 days on October 14th, which was around a month later. She disobeyed an order on November 3rd, and in July of the following year, she was penalized $200 for causing property damage. On November 21, 2020, following another assault, she spent an additional 7 days in the cell. The case that had captured Australia would finally go to trial on November 30, 2020, and Jessica Camilleri's trial got underway. The 5-day event would be held in front of Justice Helen Wilson at the Supreme Court of New South Wales. Jessica, now 27, sat in the dock with her support worker and occasionally smiled at the guards in the courtroom. The prosecutor claimed in his opening statement that Rita was unduly defensive and protective of Jessica, who had a long history of assaulting people. According to the court, Jessica had a history of requesting attention, a low feeling of self-worth, and an excessive expectation of treatment. She claimed to have acted in self-defense when initially questioned by the police, claiming that her mother had attacked her and threatened to take her to a mental health facility. Members of her family were heard letting out what were called exasperated sighs when this was presented to the court. Christy, Jessica's sister, testified that Jessica would continually order her mother around and demand attention. She went on to say that Jessica would frequently stop and fast forward her favorite parts of her favorite horror films, and that she would lose her mind if they were taken away. Rita believed that the different support programs she had used over the years had failed her in regards to Jessica's behavior. The stress of attempting to take care of her had worn her out. According to the court, Jessica's behavior deteriorated when her father departed because he was in charge of disciplining and controlling her. Rita's sister claimed that she had discussed her daughter's actions with her numerous times. Being blind, she was unable to see what I could. She was a mother, and the love of a mother has no bounds. I hope Jess receives the support she requires so Rita may sleep easy knowing that her daughter is being cared for by a system that fails her. Professor Greenberg, who had communicated with Jessica extensively while incarcerated, also testified in court. She likes to talk to men because that excites her, he stated. Talking to women doesn't really interest her. She gets upset and her intermittent explosive disorder starts. If they make fun of her, get upset with her, or get upset with her, there isn't a single disorder that describes her. He continued, she probably had the mental capacity to comprehend what was happening and determine whether or not what she was doing was right at the time of the incident. In my opinion, however, based on the concomitant psychiatric diagnosis, I believe that her mental abnormality resulting from her underlying disorders significantly compromised her ability to control herself. Dr. Richard First, a forensic psychiatrist called by the defense, stated that he thought Jessica had a long-standing mental illness and that she was aware that what she was doing was wrong. According to him, the primary inquiry was whether she possessed the ability to regulate her actions. I felt that ability was impaired, he stated. On the tiled floor was the body of the deceased, head decapitated, a constable said, exposing the utter horror of what had transpired that July night. The dead were surrounded by 6 knives, both broken and whole. There was a human tongue to the right. I thought the bit of skin under the refrigerator further to the right was a human nose. The cervical spine was exposed by the several sharp penetrating incisions on the skull. The tiles beneath the deceased's neck had human eyeballs on them. She was lying prone on the floor with her feet pointing in the direction of the oven. The legs were straight with the right foot sporting a clump of brown hair and the soles of the feet pointing upward. The wounds on the wrist and right hand were defensive in nature. The left hand was resting on her neck while the left arm was bent at the elbow. Now that all the evidence had been presented, it was time for the jury to take a break and deliberate on their decision. And the decision was rendered on December 10, 2020, following 2 days of debate. Jessica Camilleri was found guilty of manslaughter rather than murder. Jessica Camilleri sat expressionless in the dock, despite many of her family members breaking down in tears while explaining to the court what impact Rita's death has had on their lives. Her lawyer said, due to her mental disorders, she doesn't react the same emotionally as other people do. Christy, Jessica's sister, would subsequently make a statement outside of court. She had the support from many avenues, and unfortunately, I feel that our mental health system let her down. Let my mother down. Let my whole family down. My mother was a beautiful person inside and out, a heart of gold, and she would have put anybody in front of her own needs. I have to live with a little boy that has to live with that trauma for the rest of his life. And I am absolutely, she has no support from our family. So I don't really care what happens to her from this point on, or when she is released. And I just hope that it is a lengthy sentence, so that way members of the community remain safe. My mother went through every avenue, doctors, psychiatrists, the mental health system itself, and nothing ever pulled through, which led us here. I can't look at her. She took our mother like she was nothing. Thank you. Thank you. The unlawful killing of Rita Camilleri on the 20th of July 2019 must be regarded as one of the most serious instances of manslaughter it is possible for any imagination to conjure. A plea of guilty or an offer to enter a plea of guilty can sometimes operate as evidence of remorse. I do not regard it as such in the present instance. Immediately after killing her mother, the offender's concern was for herself. She invented an account of having been attacked by her mother in an attempt to avoid responsibility for what she had done. When her family gave their victim impact statements to the court during the sentence proceedings, the offender seemed uninterested rather than saddened at what were objectively deeply moving accounts of loss and enduring grief. There is a real issue here of the offender's future dangerousness and a requirement to consider what is needed for the protection of the community. The offender told Professor Greenberg, and medical notes record that she had assaulted a number of other people in the community. Since entering custody, and despite the close supervision provided in a custodial environment, the offender has been both criminally charged and institutionally penalized for offending behavior. Upon her eventual release from prison, the offender will not have the support and supervision of her mother, and she will not have her mother to ensure that she attends medical appointments and takes prescribed medication. She will not have a calm and safe family home to go to upon release. The possibility of a violent outburst against someone in the community looms large. The protection of the community must be a significant consideration in light of the extreme gravity of this crime, the very great harm done, and the need to protect the community from the offender. A stern sentence is called for. Before that sentence is imposed, I wish to extend my sympathy and the sympathy of the court to the offender's sister and her family. I recognize that no sentence imposed upon the offender can make good their loss or diminish the grief they feel. Every like helps us reach more true crime lovers. Subscribe now so you don't miss what's coming next. Miss Camilleri, would you stand up please? For the manslaughter of Rita Camilleri on the 20th of July 2019, the offender is sentenced to a term of imprisonment for 21 years and 7 months, commencing on the 20th of July 2019 and expiring on the 19th of February 2041. The non-parole period is one of 16 years and 2 months imprisonment, which will expire on the 19th of September 2035. My thanks to those at the bar table. Oh, thank you. It didn't hit me at first, but then it hit me like a ton of bricks, like a mountain. Jessica wrote in a letter to her family, I am aware that my mother's absence is my fault. When it was announced in September 2022 that Jessica was contesting her sentence, her attorney contended that since she had been prepared to enter a guilty plea to manslaughter prior to the trial, a lesser sentence ought to have been imposed. She had done everything she could to bring about the outcome that was achieved as early as she could, he stated. He added that once she had transferred to a different prison, her behavior had significantly improved. In response to the appeal, the Crown argued that Jessica should have received a harsh punishment due to the seriousness of her actions. Her sentence was lowered to 16 years and 6 months in prison with a 12-year, non-parole period when her appeal was successful. The appeal had been approved by 2 of the 3 judges. Objectively, the facts were horrific and violent, including a crazed assault on an innocent victim in her own house, the judge declared. However, Camilleri's complex mental disorder caused her to lose control of herself, which led to the impulsive offense. Her actions, which included carrying her mother's head into the street, dropping it, and asking emergency services if they could put it back, showed how disconnected the applicant's behavior was from reality. She has been accused of numerous violent attacks against officials and other prisoners since the start of her term. She was accused of assaulting 2 female corrective services officials in 2021. One of them testified in court, "My scalp was torn off its hair. For weeks following the attack, I felt lost and alone. The thing that bothers me the most is the psychological toll. Even if I still experience pain and suffering physically, my sense of security was destroyed by the assault." Post-traumatic stress disorder would also be diagnosed in one of the assaulted officers. However, she was accused of assaulting 2 female guards in August 2023, leading to 2 charges of common assault. Her sentence was extended by an additional 22 months, with a 15-month non-parole period. I don't understand. This is a waste of time, she said in court. People outside want me to spend more time with them because they dislike me. I could spend a lot of time behind bars. Because of how the other girls have portrayed me, I have been singled out because of the nature of my offense. I was picked out for punishment. I was transferred from the wing where that altercation took place by corrections. Some behavioral wing wants to hold me there for a month before sending me to the women's prison, but I have no idea what they're doing. Other inmates will make my life a living misery no matter what I do or where I go. It's difficult here. Every like helps us reach more true crime lovers. Subscribe now so you don't miss what's coming next. It's not like the outside world. The house would subsequently be put back on the market to be rented out. Despite the horrifying nature of the crime that took place there, it's really difficult to come up with the right phrases to conclude a case like this. It can be very challenging and draining to care for someone with such complicated needs. But Rita showed Jessica that she loved her unconditionally and deeply by refusing to give up. It is impossible to fully understand the extent of the trauma that those left behind will have to endure. One can only hope that there will be a possibility for some much-needed healing as time passes. This case was truly heartbreaking.